Lizzie Cundy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What an
Great to
intro.
be here.
What an
I
intro.
love that intro. I've just had this way of always believing in myself. I was modelling at a very young age. I thought I wanted to be an actress, tried that for a bit, and then fell into presenting. I wanted to be somehow in showbiz, but I had a big interest in politics. My father worked with Margaret Thatcher, and we had many people over. I married a footballer very young, had kids very young. I didn't really want to get married. I was quite shocked when he popped the question, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sliding door, and I hadn't locked it. He opened it and said, "Do I know you?" And I thought, oh my word, Simon Cowell's looking at me doing a wee. Simon said, "I actually thought Cheryl Cole was dead." Why someone's outside trying to find a table, and he thought I'd gone to the loo. And he was like, "Where is Mum?" And he walked in, I'm sitting next to Tom Cruise, and there was no one more pleased than me when she got with Prince Harry. My old man. Success is the best revenge. Never say you can't do it, and choose something you love to do.
Guys, Matt Haycox here, and welcome to the Matt Haycox Show, where today I have a master networker, just like myself. She's built and maintained a career in show business over the last 3 decades. She was the original WAG, and she's used her networking and people skills to become a go-to celebrity interviewer on TV, radio, and the magazines. Lizzie Cundy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
What an
Great
intro.
to be here.
What an intro.
I love that intro. 3 decades making me sound a bit old, but I will take that.
Not
Thank
at
you.
all. Not at
Thank
all.
you.
You started work at 5.
I did indeed. No, I was actually. I was modelling at a very young age, but I always liked working. And weirdly, though my family did very well for themselves, my dad used to be with Saatchi and Saatchi did the Conservative campaign long time ago, and I always wanted to have my own money and work from a very young age, from the age of 14.
Did you know what that was going to be? I mean, when did you start modelling?
I was modelling at that age, and I wanted to be somehow in showbiz, but I had a big interest in politics.
Oh, really?
Always from a young age.
Did you study it at school?
My father, as I said, worked with Margaret Thatcher, and we had many people over our house of showbiz nature, political world, and I just took always an interest in people's lives and current affairs, but obviously I love the showbiz as well, which I started out in.
And were your family supportive of you wanting to be in showbiz?
No, not at all. They were like, "Lizzie, marry a doctor, have a nice life, don't have to worry." Instead, I didn't listen. I married a footballer very young, had kids very young, and always just loved being in front of the camera, really. And I thought I wanted to be an actress, tried that for a bit, and then fell into presenting.
And how did you start to get into it in those days? Because I guess it's obviously very, very different to today, when there's so many media outlets, so many chances to make yourself a celebrity, whether it's through social media or distributing your own content. I mean, when you were starting out, somebody needed to pick you and make you that front and center figure. How did you do it?
I just think it was my personality in some respects, but I never said can't if someone said no. I mean, my first job was actually with Philip Green, who had a big FU's Jeans campaign, and I remember him writing down saying "best bum" because I had these jeans on, which you wouldn't be allowed to say today. And when I was modelling, I talked too much, and he actually sacked me because I was talking too much. And he rang, my mum was livid with him and called him up and told him off, and then he wanted me back. And I don't know, I've just had this way of always just thinking and believing in myself. But I did marry very young, so my career was put on hold. I wanted to be an actress. I did James Bond movies and was a body double and did all this work with Pierce Brosnan, which was amazing. But I knew somehow I had a voice, and I wanted to be, heard and be able to make maybe a bit of a difference in the world.
When you say that you never said can't, what exactly do you mean by that? You mean you never turned a job down, or?
Not never turned a job down, though I would make the most of an opportunity. So if I got a job, I would make sure I knew who was important, make sure I got their number, or made sure I got a meeting afterwards, and I kind of made the best out of if it wasn't the best job, I'd make the best out of it, basically. And you've got to think like that. My eye never was really off the ball. But, when I got married very young, I had kids very young, and weirdly, it was through being married to a footballer, I then got many, many other shows.
And I mean, look, you're known You're known now as a master networker. I mean, it's probably a skill that you've developed throughout your career and probably thought more about in the latter years. But I mean, was that something that you were gifted with as a youngster? I mean, were you networking, or did you know you were networking in your teens?
I'll be honest. I had a family. As I said, my dad was in the business, so we had a lot of famous people like David Bailey, the photographer. Many well-known people. So I didn't ever feel intimidated because they were my mum and dad's friends. So they'd have a lot of parties, and I just felt comfortable as a young age around famous people. I didn't think of them any different. And my dad used to always say, picture them on the loo. They're the same as you and me, and you can do anything. And I think that was inbuilt in me. And this is a funny story, because how I met Simon Cowell was actually on the toilet, which is terrible, because I saw him at a restaurant, and as I went into the loo, he accidentally pulled the door open. And that's how I became friends with Simon Cowell.
These were unisex loos, or he's in the ladies or you're in the men's?
No, there was a VIP loo, so we didn't have to walk down the stairs at this restaurant.
God forbid.
Cipriani's, and I literally used the Showbiz toilet. I probably shouldn't have.
Is this the one off Berkeley Square?
Yeah.
The slidey door. Yeah,
and a slidey door, and I hadn't locked it. He opened it and said, "Do I know you?" And I thought, oh my word, Simon Cowell's looking at me doing a wee. And I said, "Well, I know you. Could you shut the door?" Which he did. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, Simon Cowell's just come in on the toilet with me. And as I opened the door, he said, "Darling, join us for drinks." But then my watch got attached to his top, and I couldn't, it was a mad story, so we couldn't get unattached. Anyway, that's how we became friends. That's a good 30 years ago.
So you married a footballer?
I did.
I mean, was that a kind of a plan to marry a footballer, or a plan to marry into celebrity? Or
Not at all, no. When I met Jason, which was at a very terrible rank nightclub in Richmond, which is still going to this day. No, I saw him and I was like, my God, who is that guy with the trousers pulled up too high, show off? No, and I was already seeing someone else, but his mate wanted to see my mate, and we shared a place together. So he got her number. That was before mobiles. That was a long time ago.
017
yes,
number.
So that was a landline number, and he got my friend's number. He knew I was there, and then he used the training ground for Chelsea was actually near my home in Richmond, so we used to wait outside every day. And my friend would say, "Oh my God, the stalker's outside." Jason would wait outside, and then my landlady brought him in. So I walked in one day, and he was sitting there having a cup of tea with her, and that is literally. He persisted me, but no, my mother was distraught that I was seeing a footballer. She wanted me with a doctor or a lawyer. Or
how long did it take you to marry him?
About 4 years.
So
we were seeing each other, for a while. But I got, I fell in love with football as well as him. And when my family supported Chelsea, my brother went, "Why didn't you tell us? We missed the whole season." Because I didn't tell anyone I was seeing Jason for a while, and all my family were Chelsea supporters.
You didn't have kids until after you were married?
I had Josh just before we got married, my eldest boy. But I didn't really want to get married. I was quite shocked when he popped the question, to be honest.
And when did you first start to notice that, I guess you were becoming a celebrity, that, you were attracting attention as a wag? I mean, probably before the word wag even existed.
Well, I have to be honest, I think it was a World Cup in Germany. And this was at the beginning of Colleen Rooney was a young girl going out there. And ITV asked me to go out there and cover the World Cup. And from then, it kind of was a whirlwind. And I got about 4 shows after that. The World Cup was like something else. I have to say, it was like the Beatles had come to town. So don't forget, the name Wags had never been invented, and it was all, on the front of every paper. And from then on, I got shows of interviewing footballers wives. It went on any football situation. Remember the John Terry and all of that situation? They'd call me in, and I got friends with the footballers. So like with the Ashley Cole and Cheryl Cole situation, I'd hear both sides, and I could put their side forward rather than what was written in the tabloids. So I became this kind of wagony aunt, as it were. And
what was it like being subject to such, intense media scrutiny?
Yeah, for me, I enjoyed it because I wasn't the one in the spotlight. I was kind of the one helping the others out. And I was getting TV shows from it. So, from following your husband around for many years and being a mother, which I absolutely love and don't regret for a minute, and we've got 2 wonderful boys, I suddenly was getting a lot of TV work from it. And I think that probably was what ended our marriage, because the attention was suddenly going on to me rather than which had been on him. And imagine if you're a footballer and you've got 40, 50,000 people cheering you all the time, and suddenly your career is ending. It's a tricky time.
How long were you married?
We were married nearly, I think, 18 years. So it's a long time, together 20. And, we had many happy years. But I do think when you look at footballers, there's got a high percentage of divorce rate. Just the fact when it does end for a footballer, it's very tough.
I mean, who would you describe as some of your favourite celebrity interviews?
Oh gosh, that's a one. That is one.
So
the
many.
good or the bad.
Well, let's do both. Tell me your favourite interview, and tell me a couple of your worst experiences.
Well, probably one of my best was Simon Cowell, which I did for This Morning on ITV, and he very kindly agreed because we were mates and he trusted me. But it was when Cheryl Cole had just began her solo career. Did a live show and did her number, and she suddenly collapsed on stage, and Simon said, I actually thought Cheryl Cole was dead. I thought she'd just been, something had happened to her because she collapsed on I don't know if you remember it, but it was very funny interview and it went everywhere. But we're good mates, and I think if you interview someone and you know them very well, it's very easy.
Well, you've just nicked my next question, actually, which I was going to say, and I'm not possibly comparing my amateur podcast hour with your 30-year media career, but I always say that I much enjoy more interviewing someone that I'm already friends with.
Yeah.
Just because it's just got a different dynamic, and that's not to say that some people you don't immediately bond with and find easier than others, but there always takes a bit of warm up time.
Oh yeah.
And do you notice doing it on a professional level a big difference to interviewing someone that you know for years compared to someone that you've just met?
Yeah, obviously, as you said, it's a lot easier if you know them very well and you know what you can get away with. And you've got in jokes and it's easy. For my red carpet, I hadn't met half of them half the time, like Tom Cruise, but he was really lovely to me. Took loads, the PR girl was like, move on. He was like, no, I'm talking to her. Remembered my name. He was charming. And we went to see the movie he was in. And I was with my son at the time. I said, I can't be bothered to watch this. So we went out the exit, which would normally happen on these red carpets. You can't be bothered to watch a movie. Went into a restaurant and he whistled me over and went, hey, join us. And he'd also skipped the movie. And my son was outside trying to find a table and he thought I'd gone to the loo. And he was like, where is mum? And he walked in, I'm sitting next to Tom Cruise. He is charming. What anyone says, that guy is genuinely...
Does he look that good and young in real life?
He looks incredible.
I mean, he's not aged a day in 30 years. It's ridiculous.
He's not the tallest, I'll be honest. But my God, he looks incredible and he's real, honest, nice guy. And he, just say, remembering my name, and didn't let me pay the bill after the day, which was always a bonus. But no, he was just very, very kind and sweet. And if you watch him on the red carpet, he takes his time with everyone. Even if it's raining, what the weather is like, he'll talk to everyone.
It's funny you say he's not the tallest. Or was it the Madame Tussauds? I forget. I think it was the London one about a year ago, and they've got a Tom Cruise waxwork in there. I have my picture of it, and literally his head comes below my shoulder. I mean, it was, you're like literally looking down.
He was a bit short, but look, he was very generous and kind to me. And then whenever he had a movie, he'd make sure I was there to do the first interview, which is kind. He doesn't have to do that, he's a Hollywood star. But you always find the big Hollywood stars are the kindest, and it's those
from
that
Love
aren't
Island.
so that can cause you trouble.
So tell me that's one of the best ones. Tell me your worst celebrity interview or the biggest dickhead celebrity.
Oh, well, I don't really want to say this because he's not very well at the minute, but it would be Bruce Willis. And
really?
I did the wrong thing because I called him Bruce. I said, hey, Brucey. And he said, don't call me Brucey. Number one, don't call me Brucey. And then I asked him about the movie. And he said, have you watched the movie? You tell me about the movie. So he was putting everything back on me and we were on the backtrack. In the end, my producer was like, we have to stop this. It's a car crash interview. Maybe it was just a bad day. But
was that a bad day for him, or do you get a similar message from other people in the industry?
I've had a few similar messages that he's not as generous as Tom Cruise, let's say, but I'm very sorry he's not well at the minute and wish him well. But everyone can have an off day. But I have found that a lot, and I won't name names, I'm sure you will be too, but those on that are trying to climb their way up aren't always the kindest to you and expect the world and think fame, is an easy ticket, but it doesn't always last very long. And, no one can always get it. It's not guaranteed.
So, talking of big names, you very famously befriended Meghan Markle.
I think the other way around. She befriended me, I think.
You befriended each other, and I think you were subsequently ghosted. I think. What happened? Tell us a bit about the relationship and what went wrong.
Well, no, Meghan came to London. No one knew of her. She was in a show called Suits.
You didn't know her at this point either.
I didn't know her at all. And they were saying this actress is flown in from Canada from a show called Suits. And I hadn't heard of her. My friends hadn't heard of her. And I practically knew everyone in showbiz. And I thought it's bad when I'm trying to Google someone. I really haven't got a clue. So we're at a charity dinner night. And my friend that was organising it said, look, do you mind sitting next to Meghan Markle? You can talk to anyone. You could talk to a wall. Will you look after her? And I was a bit annoyed, really, because all my mates were on the other table. I was like, oh, do I have to sit with this person? They said, look, just for a while. Anyway, we did. We sat together. We got on very well, actually. And there we go. She's probably regretting sitting next to me now, but we got on extremely well. And she loved London, loved the whole showbiz scene, wanted to get on, wanted to meet journalists, wanted to meet a, English chap to go out with. And look, she won the lottery with meeting Harry. And then the next night we happened to be at the same event again. So we were next to each other again, and it kind of went on from there. And she wanted to be interviewed, and I was presenting for OKTV then. So I said to my producer, can we do a little interview with her? And he was like, no way, we've got Victoria Beckham here. We've got all these names, Eva Longoria. I don't know this woman, no. So I said, even just a tiny bit, even if we don't use it, even if you pretend to film, because I promised her. And now he wishes he'd given her, longer time, to be honest. But yeah, that's how we met.
And how did the relationship break down, or how did she disappear?
Well, mainly because she got with Harry. There was no one more pleased than me when she got with Prince Harry. But I just sent a little message saying, I'm really happy for you. Then suddenly seeing the message hasn't come back. And then, and you kind of know if someone's not answering you back, it's like, that's it.
Tell me, and again, I know nothing about her, so I may be completely unfair saying it, but all you read as a layman in the press is people talking about her being a social climber, a career climber, using people to get what she wants. Yeah. And maybe now, because we're conditioned to think that, when I see her talk, to me she comes across as that person and as cold, and I would never have imagined me warming to her. And I always I'd like to think I'm a reasonably good judge of character, and normally when I meet people or spend time with people, I can very much tell if someone's genuine with their intentions or not. Was there never any times when you were with her that as she was becoming more famous, you could see what she was at, you could see what the game was all about?
Well, I'll be honest, I just thought she's a very ambitious girl, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm like that, and I could see she was taking every opportunity. She wanted to meet people and be with the right sort of people as well, and get on basically. And I, good luck to her. I thought, no, I'll help her. But slowly I started seeing her disregard people. There's many we could name, like Piers Morgan, and she kind of used them, and when she knew there was no way more she could use them, she'd get rid of them. And look, I understand it. It's very different from being a sort of a celebrity princess to a royal princess. Very, very different. And I can totally understand her ghosting me. I don't hold it against her. If I saw her today, I'll give her a big hug. I don't agree with the way she's gone about things. But
why do you say you don't agree with the way she's gone about things, yet you agree with her ghosting you? I agree with her ghosting me because I knew that the celebrity world's very different to the royal world, and I'm sure she was told you can't mix with certain people. But she must owe you a text. We must have owed you a reply to say
possibly, yeah, out of manners. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she did. But I do get it, and I think sometimes it's easier just to cut off than to explain yourself, and you kind of talk with your feet, and you just think, right, it's easier just to leave it. I get that, and the royal world's very different to that celebrity world that I'm in, and I understood that, and I forgave it. But I don't like the fact that they have trashed the royal family. They've done these interviews, they've done the books. It goes on, and they trade off the royal family, yet badmouth them at any opportunity. And I actually think it has gone against them, and the popularity, as we know, has dropped. And, you know, even across the pond, they're not very popular at the moment. Let's put it like that.
Let's talk WAG again. So you've been in the WAG business since it first began. I mean, how have you seen it change over the years? I mean, particularly, let's say now there's more money at play. You know, the players today are earning a lot more money than back then. I mean, have things like that influenced what the WAGs are like, how the girls behave?
Well, I think we've got to remember the girls didn't put that name for them. The press made that name up. They never wanted to be called WAGs. Some loved being called a WAG and made the most of it. Some just thought it was beneath them and hated it. Look, I made a career out of it. I did even a musical about WAGs, a musical in the West End. I mean, I literally have made money from being a WAG and a career, and I'm very thankful for that. But it has changed hugely. As you know, the wages in football have gone through the roof. I mean, today Colleen Rooney is on the cover of Vogue. I mean, who would have thought a footballer's wife would be like the front cover? And it just shows there is power in football. And also, I think you've got to look at the footballers' wives. They do a lot of good. They do a lot of charity. They do have brains. I think people can judge them as being just a bimbo. I had to work extra hard to get ITV at the movies because they knew I was a footballer's wife, and they thought, oh, what does she know? But you have to work that extra hard sometimes, so it can go against you.
Do the wives all and girlfriends tend to stick together? Is it a club where you look after each other?
Yeah, it definitely is a club you look after each other. I mean, back in the day when I was married to Jason, you know, if he even just popped to the loo, or I'd say, look, I'm just going to be outside for a minute, they'd watch my seat because a girl would be in that seat within seconds. It was like bees around a honeypot. It really was. And I think always with that sort of wages and money, and the girls think it's so glamorous with the big houses and the cars, you're always going to get that sort of attention of girls. They're like footballers are like the rock and roll, like the Rolling Stones were in the day. Footballers are that now. And
in the same way, I kind of asked the question about Meghan. How obvious is it with many WAGs in the circle that, you know, that girl is blatantly just there because she's after the cash, she's after the limelight, she's after the attention, and if this player gets a better contract than this player, then she's jumping up?
I think you've got to have I think I've got a good instinct like yourself, and I think you can see that in someone, and if their intentions are real. I mean, I didn't even know Jason was when I met him. I was earning more than him. He was apprentice at Chelsea, earning 50 quid a week or something. But, you know, I think you need to see that for yourself, who is real. And I think footballers aren't always the most brightest at seeing that, and that's why they get on the front pages of the paper rather than the back.
I mean, we talk about the WAGs sticking together. I mean, I guess at one time they weren't sticking together was with the Colleen and Rebekah Vardy situation. I mean, were you finding yourself in a situation where you had to pick a side, or was it awkward for you back then?
No, never awkward for me. I mean, I was never friends with Rebekah Vardy. I knew her. I'd say hello. I saw her at a couple of events. But Colleen is someone I've known from an early age. As I said, I was in Baden-Baden in the World Cup back in the day. You know, I've known her for a long time, and Colleen has always been very kind to me, and I take people as I find them, and I don't care if you make the tea with the chairman, if you're a nice person. And she was always very, very sweet, good, honest. So when that case was happening, I just knew Colleen wouldn't be out there unless she believed what she was saying and what her truth was. And I actually went to see the show. I don't know if you know the show about this court case.
Oh, well, like a theatre show?
A theatre show on it. And it will be coming out. I mean, I went on the first night, and Rebekah Vardy had no case. It was unbelievable. It was a real transcript from the case. Well,
I was going to say, I mean, this might be a boring question if everybody already knows, because like I said, I'm not not very into football and not very au fait with celeb gossip. But I mean, if Rebekah was effectively completely lying all the way through, why did she bring a case against Colleen that she knew she was utterly lying about?
I think ill-advised. I think she was hoping for some reason she could win through. Maybe she believed it. I just don't understand it, because when you look at the evidence, she had no evidence. I mean, even the phone got thrown over into the North Sea. There were so many mad things, you couldn't make it up. If it was like a soap on TV, you wouldn't believe it. But Rebekah believed in herself, and she was the one that took it to court. I mean, Colleen many times tried to stop it and say, look, I just want to have a sorry, apologise, or let's make a truce. And it was Rebekah that pushed it. But it's a high price to pay. I don't care how much money any footballer makes. It's a lot of money to lose.
How much was it?
Well, it was millions. Yeah. Over 3 odd million quid, which for anyone is a lot of money.
Let's talk about mental health, show business. I mean, obviously mental health, very topical in every industry now. I mean, particularly show business. I mean, have you seen the pressures of showbiz take its toll on your mental health, or do you see it with other people? And I mean, do you think enough's been done nowadays?
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of it's very difficult if you're in the public eye and your private life is being put on the front of the papers and being written about, and then people comment about it and they haven't got a clue. And obviously when my marriage split, it was News of the World actually was one of the last papers they did before they stopped printing, did about our marriage split before I really knew about it. And I've got 2 boys, don't forget, so very difficult. And you've got the neighbours, your friends and mums at school reading it and judging you, not knowing the true story. So sometimes, yeah, I mean, gosh, I've been there. It can be tough, but I think if you put yourself in that spotlight and you are out there, you've got to take with the good with the bad, and people that sell their stories to big celebrity magazines, but then when they're caught out with lies, get very upset. I just think, you've got to understand the business you're in, which I did. So, and I'm quite a tough cookie underneath, so I look sweet. Well, I'm quite toughened with life, and I think you have to be for a footballer's wife, and in that world, because in football you can be, number one player 1 minute, and then someone else is taking your place and you're dropped, the manager's not talking to you. And I've understand the hardships as well when you're just suddenly 1 minute everyone loves you, and then tomorrow the phone can stop ringing. So I do understand that.
Did you know Caroline Flack?
I did know Caroline, yes, I knew Caroline Flack, lovely girl.
And do you think enough's been done in the industry now since then to prevent another situation like that?
I think I hope lessons have been learnt from Caroline, because that was such a tragic, sad case. I know, and I just feel for her family and close friends so much, because she was absolutely a beautiful girl inside and out. But I think lessons have been learnt from that, and the papers have to be far more careful with mental health issues now, and it is a real problem, especially since I think lockdowns and stuff. People have really suffered a lot. Careers have ended, businesses have ended through lockdowns and stuff, and I think we've got to be particularly careful. But don't make mental health as an excuse for bad behaviour either, and a lot of people can use the mental health card to get out of acting bad, which I don't agree with either. Let's
talk about money. We can't talk about football and celebrity and showbiz without bringing money in. So, I mean, how financially motivated are you? I mean, I know at the beginning of this you said that you always wanted to get out there and earn money for yourself. But I mean, how important is quantum of money to you? Have you always wanted to be rich? Do you want?
No, I'm actually not materialistic at all. I like being successful, but I'm not one of those that is all about money. I like being successful and having a focus. And what my dad said, if you enjoy your job, it never feels like work, and that's what I do. But obviously we need money to get by, and money can make life easier and give you freedoms, but it's not the be all and end all. And I've learned that. My ex-husband had testicular cancer twice, lost my best mate from cystic fibrosis when I was 27. I've seen a lot of pain, and I have to say, look, health is more important anything than money. But obviously money does help, and everyone likes that, the odd nice handbag or holiday at times. I'm not against that, but money does. Yeah, I have actually today. But money doesn't rule my world by any means.
And how have you managed your money over the years, or how have you invested it? Have you had a financial advisor? Have you taken a personal interest in it?
Well, probably that's how I'm not bothered about money. I should have probably taken a financial advisor. I haven't. I just, if I could look after my boys give them, I wanted, when my marriage split, to have the same life. I didn't want them to have to worry. So I work for my boys, and if I can, make sure my family are okay, that's all important to me. But no, I haven't taken a financial advice. And if you know one, I could do with one.
I'll give you some great investments.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Have you got any financial disaster stories to tell me, whether it's a terrible investment or a utterly ridiculous purchase looking back? Or are you happy with those 300 handbags?
No, I wish. I think possibly property, because I don't think we realised how, when to sell, when to...
Oh, you mean you've bought some property and done badly on it?
And, in the early days, had a beautiful place in Chelsea, which I sold for nothing when I look back, and now it's worth absolute fortunes. But I think everyone in hindsight can look back on their life and think, oh, why did I do that? Or why did I keep that? But I should have held on a bit more. But as I say, I'm not very money minded, and that's possibly where I'm not great, my greatest asset but I love working, and I love having a focus and being happy, and work makes me happy.
Do you enjoy reality TV?
I've done a few. I haven't done loads of reality TV. I mean, I did a Shirley Valentine ITV show, Looking for Love, and that was quite tough because I was away in Greece with about another 7 girls I didn't know. Your phone, you haven't got your mobile. So that for me is something, I'm on my phone probably like you, every 2 seconds. So that was taken away. That was quite tough. And also they put you in a vulnerable state, trying to look for love, talking about your past love life. So that was quite tough, but rewarding in other ways. And I quite enjoyed that. But that was probably my best one I did.
Would you like to do more?
I possibly would. I think Simon Cowell always said to me, if you're yourself, just don't try and fake it, because the audience will always see through it. That's my advice to Meghan Markle. Be yourself. And if, you've got to be likable. So I always try and be myself, and, not everyone loves the way I am, but I'm true to myself.
What shows would you like to be on if you could pick another one to be on?
What show? Well, I wouldn't mind The Jungle, I'll be honest, 'cause I'm quite daring. And I'm not a girl's... I think people see me all made up with lipstick, but I'm a bit of a go-getter, and can take risks, and I'm quite sporty. I'm very competitive. Probably been married to a footballer, so I hate losing.
Have you done Strictly?
I haven't done Strictly.
Would you like to?
Maybe. I couldn't do Strictly before because my best friend was judge. You see, Bruno Tonioli was judge there.
That's the real reason you couldn't, as in?
Well, no, it's going to be very different because you're going to be biased, and I know Craig Hall very well.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, well, he could actually hammer me. He'd probably give me more stick. It would be more funny. But I think if you've got a best mate as judge, it's going to be a bit difficult, which I understand. But Bruno's a great mate who's doing very well for himself at the minute.
One of the themes that comes up very regularly on these podcasts is mentorship and mentors. I always talk, particularly from a business perspective, about the importance of having mentors to smooth the path ahead of you. And I talk very much about the fact that we don't learn anything from the things that go right, only from the things that go wrong. But we don't have to learn it from doing it wrong ourselves. We can learn it from somebody else's mistakes. And I think whilst I had, let's say, accidental mentors in my earlier life and earlier career, it's probably only the last 5 to 10 years that I've really formally understood that concept of mentorship. But I mean, over the years, you must have met some incredible people. I mean, you've mentioned Simon Cowell a few times, who's probably the ultimate the ultimate crossover between celebrity and business, really. But anyone else that you would consider a mentor over the years?
Well, I've mentioned Bruno Tonioli, who actually, came from nothing. Was a dancer, and you imagine the competition he's got with all the dancers and choreographers, and has gone on to make it in the #1 show here in this country. Don't forget, this isn't his native language. He's from Italy. Then have another blockbuster show in America as well, Dancing with the Stars. And now gone on to do Britain's Got Talent. Oh, and that is quite something for a boy that, had nothing, came to this country, didn't speak the language, and has gone on to do so, and going out with him is like something else. I was with him last night. You can't get to the table without people, other kids or the grannies. He has an age range, that want to be pictured with him. And I take my hat off to that, because you're thrown in the deep end in a country you don't know, and you can't speak the language, and you can, be so successful. So I take my hat off to him, and he's he's one of my best friends.
Is there anything specific you've learned from him?
Yeah, to suss people out. I used to be quite easily charmed, believe people, say, they're your best mate and they'll do this for you, that for you. It's not always the case, and a lot of people want something from you. And I've learnt to be, I know that may be a bit sad because I was very open and a bit more sort of, with my circle of friends is a bit more closed, shall we say, which I think is a good thing.
And have you been a mentor to anyone?
I hope so in some ways. I had, growing up an eating disorder. And, it isn't really actually about food. It's about control and trying to,
How old were you?
14. And I've talked about it openly. I've people message me. I help with a charity. I help with that. And also Women's Aid. I help with, which is another charity for women that have had domestic abuse. And, so in some ways, because I can talk openly about what's happened to me, I hope in some way I can help others. And I hope so. And I hope in some way in this sort of fake celebrity world, I've been able to do some good back.
I mean, just for a bit of context, we are recording this in the 16th, 17th of August 2023, which, and we've just found out the sad news that Michael Parkinson has died, 88 years old. I mean, obviously a total showbiz and interviewing, particularly legend. And did he give you any advice over the years?
Yeah, do you know what? I was so lucky to meet Michael Parkinson because obviously as a kid growing up, watching him on TV, his legendary shows, he always got the stars, and he had such a way about interviewing people. And I did OK TV for 9 years, and I happened to see him, and I said, I've got to grab him for an interview. And I actually said, what makes someone be good as a talk host? And he just said, sit back and listen. He said, because so many people that interview don't actually listen. And when you look at others today, you kind of see where they interrupt, over talk. And when you watch Michael Parkinson, he actually sits back, and then you get the story and you get the tears and you get, the headlines. And he was, I think, probably the best, in the business, without a doubt. And very sad news.
I mean, is there one single piece of great advice, not just from Parky, but from anyone in general, that really sticks out over your career?
Look, I'm going to say him again, Simon Cowell. So when my divorce happened, and he said, I was obviously not in a good place. And he said, don't be bitter. Do not be bitter. And success is the best revenge. If you want, forget about revenge, but success people don't like. And so I've always felt in my heart, it makes me happy to be successful because my haters will hate that. So success is a good thing.
Well, look, you've had an incredible career. You've done many things on, in front of the camera, behind the camera, celebrity business and everything in between. And, you talk about success, and I always like to wrap these up with the question of, if you were to look back and talk to your 14-year-old self now, out there starting to model and looking for a successful career in show business, how would you define that success now? Is it what you thought?
It's even better. I love doing what I do. I'm so glad I took this path. And as my dad said, if you do something you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. And every day I feel like it's a pleasure and it's fun. And sometimes I get paid well for it. So it's all good. And I'm very, very blessed. And I would just say, look, go for it. And as I say, never say can't. You can do anything. If I can, you can.
Well, Lizzie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
And you.
30 years of stories in less than an hour, but I'll look forward to hopefully doing round 2 again when
definitely.
when we've got many more stories to tell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.